everyone, and welcome to the Board of Education meeting. April 30th meeting, we had a closed session, and we're now going to open session. We're up to item 6, the student representative report. Iris and Jim. How are you all? Welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start by talking about how College Commitment Day is tomorrow, May 1st, which is exciting for a lot of seniors. But since tomorrow is also state testing for the underclassmen, this means that seniors aren't coming in until 11:39. So our senior class decided to move up our college decision t-shirt day to Thursday. That way we can all show the t-shirts that we're wearing for an entire school day.
We also wanted to highlight that AP exams are coming up starting at the end of this week, right? And into the next 2 weeks afterwards. Students are already studying hard. I think they can't believe that they're already here. I have 4, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know. I think at the same time, I think everybody's more lively because the weather's been nice, so it's less stressful than usual, honestly.
Next, we had the Student Advisory Committee meeting today with the underclassmen student representatives. They had a lot of really great feedback, but in particular, they talked about how, based on their own experiences, some of the academic courses they took felt more like honors level courses because of the difficulty and then the amount of work along with that. And also because they're academic level courses, they felt that the course itself brought down their GPA when instead it should have brought their GPA up because of its difficulty. They mentioned computer science too and human anatomy, but I'm sure some other courses are applicable to this.
And then, again, I guess we just wanted to highlight the fact that school's winding down. Students are preparing for their final exams and their AP exams. I also noted the weather. Definitely people have been taking advantage of the picnic tables that we've put outside for unit lunch, and also the new covered space near the small cafeteria. I know in my study hall, I go out there every day, the whole class, and I think it's just better than being inside for class. I also have seen more class trips going on around this time. Last Friday, I took a trip with BRTV down to NBC Studios in New York City. It was an incredible opportunity to get a tour of NBC and kind of, I dream of being a journalist and, possibly having a career at one of those major news stations.
Did you read in the background of Good Morning America or anything in the morning?
We could not take any pictures there. It was very sad.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I know. But,
I was just checking.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was very exciting to see how you can make your way up to the top there. And I think it's also to highlight the importance of going on these class trips and the opportunities that we have to go on them, to focus on our careers, And I think that we need to take more advantage of doing so. People are also excited for prom. Prom's coming up this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The final musical of the school year is happening, High School Musical, and a lot of seniors that are in the musical are graduating this year. So it's sad to see their last one, but we're excited to see it. Senior awards are coming up, and then we're also getting ready for the big day of graduation. Yes, we're very excited. That's at Rutgers, and then tickets have been sent out, and people have purchased, and we're all very excited. And that's the end of our report.
Thank you. So it sounds like students are enjoying the new patio area with the sails. I know in the fall the sails haven't come in yet, but
yeah.
Okay.
They're nice, yes. A little shaded area during the study hall was really nice rather than the sun beating down.
Excellent.
I just wanted to make a comment about the field trips. That was nice to hear about the trip that you recently went on because, during COVID, we had no field trips for probably 2 years, and then it extended. And I can tell by the volume of forms that I review and sign that we're back in business. So it's nice to know that, you find it a valuable experience. I had one more question just for them because I was curious. Does it feel different as a senior to take an AP test than it did as a junior, or?
Does it feel different? I think honestly there's less pressure.
I was wondering.
I feel like it shouldn't be, but I guess as people have committed, they're kind of like, I signed up and I spent the money, I kind of have to go through with it, even though a lot of colleges don't take it. But I'm putting my all in it at the same time.
All right, good luck.
As much college credit as I can get, yeah.
Great.
Thank you. And I know as we get into the month of May, we start to really give thanks to all the things everyone has done throughout the year. And ladies, I want to thank you so much for the efforts you've put in. I know there are a few more meetings to go, but you've definitely raised the bar as far as the student reports and the way you're organized and what you share with us every meeting. So I want to say thank you. There'll be more to come, but your work is really appreciated.
Can I ask you, I don't want to, if you're waiting on the T-shirt reveal, any college news for yourselves that you want to share, but no, obviously no.
Yes. For me, I committed to George Washington University Honors Program. I think for me, thank you. Me majoring in journalism, I think it's a great opportunity election year to be able to go and study in the city, and I'm very excited for it.
That's great.
Yes, nice timing.
I know that May 1st is tomorrow, but I'm still facing a lot of turmoil with my family. We're in between Emory and UMich right now, University of Michigan, and those schools are vastly different in terms of their culture, but I think both have really good pre-med programs, so we still have to decide.
Climate. So climate too.
Yeah.
Michigan is really cold in the
Yes.
winter, maybe from the Midwest.
Definitely.
All right,
So.
and George is just climate. Consider that too.
It's okay, I can sacrifice.
All right.
Good weather.
They're both good luck on your decisions, and thank you guys so much. Like I said, Rita, you've been wonderful additions to the board. I mean, we have had student board reps for the time, and I think it's fantastic you guys are here, and you represent yourselves and your school and community well, so thank you. And enjoy your late entry to school tomorrow, all right? Study or do whatever, so thank you guys. With that, the superintendent report, the presentation of the budget.
Okay, thank you. So, good evening, and as Mr. Walker just said, tonight's presentation will focus on the proposed school budget for the 2024-25 academic year. But I want to start by thanking the members of the FFT committee for their work in this critical area. When we look at the Bridgewater-Raritan Regional School District as a whole, we know that the system is built on people and programs, right? And in order to support those people and programs, we need a budget that's going to enhance and support those things. So, and as we know, these are exciting times in our school district as we're embarking on major changes to our academic programs and facilities, which includes the opening of full-day kindergarten in 2026, as well as the shifting of grades in every school throughout the district, except for the high school. So, and as we embark on this, we've got to remember that every single, 10 out of 11 schools are going to change in a rather profound way as far as staffing and the grades that are being taught within those facilities. So the budget that you're going to see tonight is significantly less than the rate of inflation, preserves and even expands our programs, and keeps Bridgewater-Raritan within the 2% state cap. So with district referendum projects moving forward simultaneously, this budget keeps on track towards being the district we aim to be. So thank you. Now I want to let Mr. Stars kick it off. And there's an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation, and we'll have a public comment section specifically for this topic. So, Mr. Stars.
Good evening. This is the district at a glance, showing the size of the district and what we deal with on an annual basis. With 7,800 students, employees of over 1,200 employees. We take care of 1.2 million square feet of buildings. We transport over 8,100 students. This is inclusive of out-of-district placements and non-public students. And our current budget is at $178 million.
And with this budget, we see the budget goals. These are essentially the same as our district goals. So when we headed into this year, and these really stay with us throughout, we want to optimize conditions for learning by implementing effective instructional practices that support all students. And as we know, there are a lot of prongs to that goal. We also want to ensure a healthy and safe learning environment by refining our operations and providing opportunities that foster student and staff social and emotional well-being. Then finally, we want to ensure equitable allocation of district resources to support our mission and goals, including the access and utilization of grade-level materials, resources, and programs.
As Mr. Beers referenced earlier, we are at the 2% tax levy cap, and the challenges we face are the same challenges many districts and individuals are facing with inflation and costs that exceed that 2% level. Personnel and benefits make up the large portion of our budget, and both salaries are, in excess of 2%, and benefits are close to 8%. Transportation costs are significantly higher with bus contracts and with out-of-district placements and transporting those students. And utilities is not decreasing either. So they're all put a squeeze on the budget, but what we have presented here, we are confident that it will serve the district well and meet the goals previously spoken to. So we look on the revenue side. As we indicated, the tax levy that we're proposing is a 2% tax levy increase. We did get additional state aid, and we're also increasing our expectation for extraordinary aid. Extraordinary aid is the aid that is we have to apply for on an annual basis for those students that we educate in district for that cost over $40,000, and those that we educate outside of the district over $55,000. Those costs we apply for, and generally speaking, we get a proration of that money back from the state in the form of extraordinary aid, it's called. The proposed budget continues the goal of reducing our reliance on fund balance. So there is a $250,000 decrease there from the current year. And the next one is our miscellaneous. This is the catch-all for all the other miscellaneous income that we might receive. A particular note here, and which addresses one of the goals, is the elimination of activity fees. So with the passage of this budget, you would see at the next, in May, the elimination of the activity fee policy in regards to charging students to participate in whether it be sports, band, or activities at the intermediate level. That policy would no longer be needed because we're absorbing that fee within the budget. So as a total, we're at 2.59% increase from current year at $183 million. So how are we spending the revenues? As indicated, salaries are close to $100 million, a 0.6% increase, as we are being wise to make sure that we are, there'll be a slide here later of what we are doing is with salary and when vacancies occur and handling those types of vacancies and with enrollment decreases. Benefits, this is all benefits, including medical, prescription, benefits like workers' compensation. That's manageable 2.61% this year. Our maintenance and operation budget is going up 1.6%. That's a total of $15.6 million. Transportation is the big one for this year. That is a significant increase of 9.42%. Again, this is for both in-house and contracted services. We probably handle about 30% of our transportation with in-house staff and 70% from contracted staff, contracted vendors. There's a other category which includes our legal, phone services, contracted service providers, software. Softwares is a big number as we are continuing to be use the technology and different types of softwares within the classroom and administration. That's at $6.2 million. Tuition is out of district tuition. This is again special education costs. This is going up 15%. Those educational schools that we send our students to have the same issues with salaries and benefits and costs associated with meeting the needs of these special education students. So that's a significant number. Supplies and text, that's going up 15%. That's part of that is $500,000 increase as from the $2.4 million that was previously raised in the separate question in November. And our equipment projects in Fund 12 is $1.8 million. This includes the addition of new buses, a vehicle for maintenance, and possibly a couple of roof projects that we are getting funded for from the ROD grants. This does not include, doesn't speak to the referendum. Referendum is completely separate from this. So the appropriations has to equal the revenues, and it does, $183 million and 2.59% increase. Another way to look at how we're spending the money, business functions is listed as 20.5%. That's inclusive of medical, the benefit line item. The instruction is about 40.2%. That's direct regular education instruction. Support services for whether it be guidance counselors, child study team, that's 11.6%. Equipment and projects, that's a mere 1%. Administration, this is all both school administration and central office administration at 6.1%. Operations is the facilities, custodial, maintenance, utilities, that's 8.6%. Transportation is the 7.6%. And then we have tuition for the out-of-district that we spoke about, that is 3%. We mentioned the staffing. Some of the funding that we previously got from the federal government is going away, and those some of those positions that were previously funded through that are being now brought into the operating budget. 5 positions there. We have 2 new guidance counselors at the high school that we are have added, and then we have some reductions of staff due to attrition and enrollment. As you can see here, 2 positions at the 5-6 level, 5 positions at the 7-8 grade level, and 4 at the 9 through 12 grade level. I will turn over to Ms. Jones for curriculum.
Okay, we have a permanent allocation for curriculum, and this would really be 4 areas that we look at in curriculum every year. One is summer curriculum projects. That's when we're writing new curriculum or making revisions or creating projects such as assessments, fun stuff like that. Supplies and materials would be another area, and then textbooks and resources, and finally professional development, and the weighting of each shifts back and forth depending on what it is we're emphasizing and whether or not we're buying a textbook for K-12. For summer projects, that would be curriculum writing. It's revision of curriculum perhaps that we wrote last year, or the creation of projects, which, you know, could be creating activities or additional resources or assessments. This year, the big change is that we need to realign all mathematics and English language arts English curricula to new standards, because the state has given us new standards. And a couple of years ago, we had all the other areas, but we did not have math and English, so that's this year. For those of you who pay attention to board meetings, you would know that we've been working on our K-8 counseling. So we're working on our character education programs, creating more consistency. We have new courses with new concentrations and pathways. So that's robotics, engineering. Our capstone courses will be starting in September. And we're realigning, we kind of re-envisioned, or Mr. McCarthy and his staff re-envisioned the visual arts course offerings. And then finally, we have special education and ESL projects. In addition to writing curriculum, we have supplies and materials. So supplies and materials include anything that wouldn't be a textbook. So when we're doing testing or universal screening that we use for either gifted and talented programs or to identify kids for intervention, that would be something that would come under the supplies and materials. Also, very excitingly, next year we're going to be paying for the Seal of Biliteracy for students. In junior and senior year, we're going to be offering it. So that was something in the past, like PSATs, families had to purchase themselves. So we'll be offering that to make it more equitable. The K-8 character education program, We've been working on foundational literacy for multiple years now, so it's our phonics resources, those decodable texts that we talk about, manipulatives for math programs. Novels actually do not fall under textbooks, they're under supplies and materials, so this would be for our Spanish heritage course. And then the work that we're doing with Gifted and Talented, we are excited that we are expanding out our cluster groups. So they're going from 4th grade this year to 3rd and 4th grade now next year. We're also expanding our small group investigations. Finally, when we're putting in robotics and engineering, we're going to obviously need new resources and supplies and materials. Textbooks, next year, there's not a major adoption, but you can see with World Civ, we're going to be looking at new textbooks in Social Studies 612. In our AP Psych class, we are going to continue with our health resource that we adopted last year in K-8. Science is TCI. It's an online platform that we use, and we have to renew it next year. And then finally, the last part would be professional development, and that is any of the initiatives that we're rolling in. Anytime we buy new resources, any new curriculum that we write, we have to provide professionals. We, of course, have to provide professional development to support teachers. So as a district, we've been shifting our literacy practice towards science of reading, and this involves training people in general education, special education, intervention specialists, ETSs, who are our elementary teaching specialists, and our coaches. ESL, as you know, we expanded into all schools last year, so this is an ongoing initiative too to make sure that all teachers are trained. Anything new we create, robotics and engineering. Also, AP training is done every year because we're constantly growing the capacity of our staff so that more staff can be AP teachers. And as we expand our gifted and talented services and programs, we're also providing professional development.
Next up is our technology allocation. There's approximately $1.5 million allocated for technology in next year's budget. This includes a Chromebook cases and license for students in grades 5 and grade 9 as our replacement and replenishment of that. New laptops for staff in grades 5 through 12. We obviously continue to need to do annual work on our network infrastructure. Cybersecurity, as we all know, is a big issue these days, so we continue to do evaluations and improvements with our cybersecurity. And we have managed services for and backup as a service from professional technology people, contractors that handle those services for us. And as mentioned, we have a bunch of online resources that we now use for libraries and classrooms. In regards to facilities projects, these are projects that were approved earlier this year and are going to be taking place this summer. The grandstands, as you might see if you go over to the high school, are basically down, and they're going to be reinstalling new ones with nice storage underneath it. The Hillside Gym is going to have its floor replaced. Turf 3 field replacement has a question mark here, but that is good news because it's on the township agenda for, I believe it's Thursday evening, for them to award the contract for Turf 3 field replacement, and we share the cost with the township for that replacement project. Annual painting projects will occur over the summer, and then we also have, obviously, the ton of referendum work that is going on. Secure vestibules at all schools except the high school. Window replacements will begin at JFK, Van Holten, and Hamilton, if I got that correctly. The middle school toilet renovation projects, Basilone Fieldhouse and parking renovations are all taking place this summer as well. In addition, tonight on the agenda is the award of HVAC projects for JFK, Van Holten, and Hamilton. So it's a busy summer. Next, we get to the never easy tax impact calculation. The first one here is for Bridgewater. The average assessment on the unequalized level is $564,000 for the average homeowner in Bridgewater. The general fund school tax rate is 1.27. This is off of an equalized value, and what that would equate to was a $46.63 increase per 100,000 of assessment in Bridgewater. Now, the debt service is what was previously approved in March of last year, and the sale bonds that occurred in December. This comes out to roughly a $23 increase per $100,000 assessment. And that should then level off for the future years, because this is the first year that we have the payments for those to begin. Next is Raritan. The average assessment in Raritan is $322,000, equates to an equalized tax rate of 1.24, and this is showing a decrease of $9.75 per $100,000 assessment. This is because the ratables of Raritan increased as opposed to Bridgewater, which went, I think, decreased slightly. And there's also an annual ratio that comes from the state that prorates the percentage of tax levy to the two communities. And this year it shifted between Bridgewater and Raritan. The debt service, again, the referendum piece of this is $19.51 on the every $100,000 of assessment in Raritan. So with that, we will open the floor for questions from the board and then the public.
I would just like to add one comment at the end, something that we didn't highlight as we should. But this budget also eliminates student activities fees, right? So one of our goals as a district is equity for all students, right? To reduce barriers for participation, et cetera. So as some of the seniors who are here tonight would know, probably throughout their career, if you wanted to join a club, there was a fee. If you wanted to join a sport, there's a fee. That's eliminated, right? Because the last thing we want is a family's ability to pay for something to get in the way of student participation. So it doesn't eliminate the fees for senior parking and things like that. But again, for activities and athletics, there are no more student fees. And I want to commend the board for taking that on and supporting that initiative, because it'll have a profound effect on our student body next year. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Any questions? Please feel free. I'm going to open
Yeah,
the phone up to
I know at the
public.
last meeting, first of all, to echo Mr. Beer's point, I agree with that, and thank you for bringing that to the board and everyone who brought that to us. I think that'll, at least in my experience, that won't just help students who may not have the means, but just students who want to try different things and experiment. And you're late at school, you miss the bus, you have an hour to kill, and you happen across a club, and you can really make a difference in your joining up. And I think that's great that that barrier, not just economic, but just just the practical thing. You got to go get a permission slip signed, you got to write a check, you got to go through a bunch of steps. So that's great that that we're taking that step.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. At this point, I'm open to the public. Public hearing on the 24-25 budget. Individual and or groups are invited to present their concerns, comments, and requests only on the 24-25 budget proposal to the Board of Education at this time. In accordance with board policy, members of the public are allotted one opportunity to address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes during this period of the meeting. Please be advised that a video recording of this meeting will be posted on the district's website.
Dan really does know what he's doing up here with the technology. So, you know what? Laura Kress, president of the Bridgewater-Raritan Education Association. And I don't talk too much anymore, just because I feel like things are going okay, and we deal with the people that work here before I have to come up here and talk to all of you, right? So that's the way it should be. But I just want to say particularly about the budget and about what Mr. Beers just said. I feel like for the first time these last couple of years in my almost 5 years of working here, things have gone more smoothly. the buildings, we're actually going to fix these buildings. You know, I started to chuckle when I saw Bridgewater-Raritan Middle School toilets, because like literally those bathrooms are not really fit for humans to use anymore in most cases. So the fact that we have to do, you were there once, right? I mean, and she's a senior now. They didn't improve since you left, okay? So I'm just saying, like, it really matters to people. It really matters to people that go to work here every day, and it really matters to the kids to have pride in things, as opposed to watching the tiles fall off the walls while you're in the bathroom, and, you know, the ceilings fall in. I mean, we're laughing, but it's like a true fact. It's a fact. It's a, you know, and I read something in the paper today, somebody's, you know, commentary about the budget, which I understand. Nobody wants their taxes to go up. I think, and I'm just, you know, from my perspective, just, I live in a different town. I don't want my taxes to go up there either, but they do. And, you know, so I understand the struggle's real. Like the struggle, financial struggle is real. But also, like, you know, the longer we let things go, the more things cost. And I feel like for many years, people that sat in these seats let a lot of things go due to financial constraints, or, you know, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not even going to start talking off the top of my head about that. But every year we didn't fix those things led us to this referendum, these 2 referendums. You know what I mean? Like, if so, it's good now. Let us keep moving in this direction, that we don't have to have another referendum in 10 years to fix things again. You know, I feel like now we're on the right track. And I think that will be felt in the pride of the students. You know, we'll have pride, and so will the staff. And the part about getting rid of the fees for paying, I think that's a big deal. It's a huge deal. And I think if we could get the buses back to like picking kids up after school that can't get a ride home, you know, on top of the fact they don't have to pay the fee anymore, that's great. And I know that's not really in anybody's control here. The fact that there's no bus drivers in the United States is nobody's fault in Bridgewater. I understand that. But I do think that would make a difference too. Because having a ride home, you know, you need that. All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Joan DePaula. I read that article today also.
You need to split your address also. Or
Yeah.
Your town you're from.
Oh, you need it to be spoken?
Yep. Thank you.
Uh-huh. I'm at 41 Ash Street in Bridgewater. So I just had, I hope I can get back to it. Well, I have a few concerns. I also am glad that that's being waived, the fees, because some students don't have as much as others. But I also don't understand if the student, I'm having a hard time getting my head around, if the student enrollment is going down, why the budget continues to increase. And we know that, that we have a problem with not so much, you know, everything's going up and everything, but that's affecting every household. That's not just, and in the households, we can't repair everything because we don't all have that money to do that, because everything is costing so much because of the deflation. I call it deflation, not inflation, because we have plenty of everything, but unfortunately the dollar is just really being diminished. So I don't understand that, and I am concerned. I read that article, and I had heard about that before, that right now up in the state is possibly increasing that cap from 2% to 9.9%, I think it is. And so we elect the school board to care for our children, to watch over the good of our children, and also to be fiscally responsible. And as it said in that article, and I had heard this before, that some of the nearby districts have been able to actually decrease, you know, not increase the budget as much, and been able to actually save money. And so I'm not really sure why in our district we're not able to do that. So let me just see. The other concern that I have that I've read in maybe the past month, actually it's been going on for a while, but some nearby districts have had corruption where there have been, now, of course, not everything has been proven and everybody's innocent until proven guilty, but I was just wondering what kind of checks and balances, not that I'm accusing anybody, but that we have in place to protect everyone and to protect the money that is brought in and make sure that it's being used appropriately. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments in the public? I think I'm going to close that part of the meeting, and we're moving on to. Yes, Steve.
I just wanted to comment on that, the budget, the idea of budgets going up 10%. It's my understanding, based on my reading of those two proposals, that 10% is only if your budget's being cut, you can increase up to 10% to recoup what the state aid is not giving you. So like if someone's state aid went down $10 million, they can try to increase beyond their 2% to recoup that $10 million. We cannot go past 2% to get 10%. That's not something that's anywhere on the horizon for a district like ours who's not experiencing that. Is that correct, Peter?
I was actually at a county business administrator meeting on Friday, and there was no conversation whatsoever of that bill. So I'm not terribly familiar with it, but I believe you're accurate in your statements.
I'll second that. You're 100% correct, Steve. And
I'll take
that. So I can read right from the draft of the bill, and it says, under the program, a school district may apply to the Commissioner of Education to increase its adjusted tax levy beyond the increases allowed under current law up to 1/3 of the amount of the school district's school aid reduction in the 2024-25 school year. The increase, however, is to be no more than 9.9% of the prior year's tax levy. So you're right, this law doesn't apply to us in any way, shape, or form. And without giving credence to what folks are talking about, the comments made in print were entirely misleading because it does not apply to us. It's not something we'd be considering, and we wouldn't be considering it because we can't. So, to your point, Steve, yes, you're entirely correct.
Thanks. And then I just wanted to briefly mention that every year we have an audit of our budget. So that would be at least one of the checks and balances that we have, is that we have a third-party auditor come in and check over the funds and making sure that they're being spent as we say they are and appropriately.
I only mention this because at FFT we talked about looking at other towns and districts similar to us. And one of those districts was mentioned in that article, and something that I had pulled up were their state funds. We think get $15 million for next year. They have $97 million from the state, which is double what they had 2 years ago. So they don't need to increase their taxes because they have so much more coming from the state than we do. So that was the only one I noticed.
What district was that?
Edison.
And I just want to. I just want to add something because the word corruption was used, and I take in whatever way it was said. Like Mr. Singer said, we do have independent audits that are conducted every year. It's required, and this budget is reviewed by the state and the county. It's just not something that we put out there like, okay, here you go. So there are checks and balances, and I think every person here that's been elected would take an offense to that if anything was done wrongly. And Mr. Stars has been in this position for well over 20 years, and I'm very comfortable with the budget that's presented.
So I also wanted to comment on the upgrades to the facilities. I went to high school at the middle school, and they're the same toilets as when I went there, and they weren't great then. So it's really great to see so many changes happening, and to be a part of that change. I guess my question is, how does actually let me start over. I heard a term like macroeconomics as it applies to like teachers and bringing on staff. Like how would that apply to like our budget as it is? I get the understanding that just because we're seeing a decrease in enrollment doesn't really have as big of an impact as it might appear, because my understanding is that it's going to be harder to recruit teachers in the future.
Oh no, I'm more than happy to take that on, and Peter knows some of the forces at play far more intimately than I do. But we know that we're at a 2% cap when it comes to taxation. Healthcare costs go up 10%. Transportation, 10%. Just general costs of doing business. We know it in our own households, right? Things are getting more and more expensive. I think the CPI index for this year is somewhere around 3.7 or 3.8. So with that, we're asking Peter to defy the laws of economics here, to say, all right, I know all these things are going on, but keep this to 2% or less. And what that does, it puts you in a posture where you're always trimming, you're always cutting, you're always looking at savings, right? And the question came up earlier. That's one of the ways that declining enrollment is helping us, right? Where if we lose staff through attrition because we don't have as many sections, then we just don't rehire for certain positions. And we've done that at least since I've gotten here as well. But there's a lot at play here, and there were several things brought up. And again, to answer your question, Mrs. Lockburn, about recruiting and retaining teachers, it's very important that as a public body, we take a stance to say we're going to, I believe, to support the budget and our teachers and the operations, because think of what we're doing when we're recruiting teachers. We're asking them to commit to us, right? If we're one of those districts and they're out there that, you know, you don't know year to year if you're coming or going, chances are in this market you're going to go, right? Because it's more of a buyer's market these days for teachers. But finally, what I would like to comment on, multiple references were made to Edison. The state aid increase in 2023-24 was $24 million. State aid increase in 2024-25 was $20 million. So when we have those comparisons, we're not comparing apples to apples. This school district, Edison gets 26.4% of their budget from state sources, while Bridgewater receives approximately 8.5%. So comparatively, when we address for differences in scale and size of schools, this state aid would be the equivalent of Bridgewater receiving $9.5 million in additional funding, which we did not get. All right, I just want to clear that. So if we did receive that amount, I believe it would have been the stance of the board and of me that, hey, there's no need to raise the tax levy because of this windfall that came in. And I have direct experience with that, where prior to being the superintendent here at Bridgewater, I was at Manville, and I was part of the group that fought for the S2 legislation and S2 funding. So there are a lot of calculations that go into this, and part of it is local fair share, et cetera. It's actually a complex formula. So there are communities like the one we've mentioned before and was mentioned in the article, and I know where I used to work in Manville, where the tax levy hasn't gone up in 7 years. And the reason for that is because the state aid was coming in really at an exponential level over those 7 years, and they were able to lighten the burden on local taxpayers. So I think it's really important to compare apples to apples when we look at this. And reference was made to another local district, and I know the struggles they're going through by having a $0 tax increase 2 years ago. Guess what they're doing tonight? They're approving a 4% tax increase. All right, and that's public knowledge. So a lot of times when you look, you want to make sure your budget, at least this is my 2 cents, I don't want to speak for the whole board. As a superintendent, I think that the Board of Education is doing an excellent job where you want to keep things consistent and steady so you can predict your outcomes, meaning your staffing, your construction, et cetera, so you have a predictable basis for your budget. That's all. Thank you.
On the topic of consistency, I just wanted to make it clear for the public because I only learned this as a board member. If we don't go to the 2% cap, then what is it, over the next 3 years, you can add that, I don't know what that's called, but that other amount. End cap? Okay, thank you. Bank cap, thank you. But you can add that to in the future. So in terms of consistency, I think, we have to think about like what benefits the community. If we're not raising taxes this year, but then we raise them twice as much or less than twice as much next year, is that going to have a big impact on families? Because then they're going to have a much larger increase in their taxes in a future year.
Sorry, last thing. Again, because I was comparing to 2 other districts. One of them right now is considering, because they can only increase their 2%, they are reducing the number of AP classes, they're cutting some of their music programs, they're cutting some of their sports. And we're talking about having more teachers ready to teach AP classes. We're talking about letting more kids join programs. So if I have to choose between 2 schools, this is where I want my kids to go.
Another thing, we often get put on as unfunded mandates by the state and the legislature. And Mrs. Jones knows that all too well, what needs to be covered in curriculum and areas and what things we need to do. So some of those areas coming to us that, okay, you got to figure out how to do it. They get put there. All these are governed by statute, the audit every year, things that happen, the statute, administrative code guides them every day, this district and the administration. I thank them for what they do. It's a tremendous job that they have to do and get there. I was proud of the administration. We have been able to manage our healthcare costs better than most because we moved to self-insurance 3 or 4 years ago, Mr. Stars. And that has been able to us to keep those in a appropriate manner so that we're not getting hit with the 15% that's coming from the state, other plans that are out there in our experience. I think, and what they've addressed in this budget is, the equity issue, I think putting forth the students first. We're making sure that we give everyone opportunities they didn't have before. There are a lot of areas that, the ROD grant funding, we now have the ability to do that, so we're catching up. We were underfunded, and Mr. Stars knows my questions about state aid many years ago. We were underfunded, this formula got held harmless. We were underfunded in the state aid for probably 10 years. So we were behind in what we may do, and we prioritized what we to do, and that's what boards have to do. And it's based on the administration's recommendations. So I'm proud of what the administration's done. I'm proud of the past boards, and I'm really proud of the community this year for passing the referendum. All 3 questions. That was we went out and asked the question for the district to borrow money. We have to go to public vote, and we did it, and they said yes in all 3. So I'm very proud of the community. So we both as a community and as a board and administration, I think, have been very fiscally prudent and effective in what we're doing and stewards to the community with the tax dollars.
I'll be quick this time. I wanted to piggyback off of Mr. Walker's comments and also Mr. Joshi's in terms of like integrity, because I remember my first year when I was on FFT, I was in the audit meeting, and the auditors, I've worked with auditors, they're never glowy. They were very glowy about the quality of work that our business administrator had submitted, and having submitted it before everybody else, I believe, if not early. So I just wanted to share that because I have full confidence in the administration when it comes to the work that they do around this topic.
Any other comments? All right, moving on. President's report. I have no report this evening. Thank you guys again. You're more than welcome. You can stay or go if you'd like, please. So I just don't want to keep you here. Jen, Vice President's report.
So Mr. Walker had
I'm not trying to kick you out.
Mr. Walker's made my job easy because he sent out an email. So definitely, if you haven't saved it, save it. It has a list of all the upcoming dates. Some of the dates for May 8th, we have the board retreat, and the discussion is strategy plan and CSA evaluation expectations. May 14th is the strategic plan presentation. May 28th is the BOE meeting where we will be discussing district goal presentation. May 29th is the CSA evaluation that we're submitting, and then there's a couple dates in June related to the CSA evaluation and finalizing it.
Thanks, Mrs. Lochran. And I just wanted to add to your report, if I may. I will forward the entire board a rough draft of the strategic plan, action plan, so you could take a look at it. You have a few days at least to take a look. You can make some comments, and then hopefully we can focus discussion beforehand. But I'll encourage everyone to make comments on the documents so we can organize our thoughts when we get there. Thank you.
Moving on, item 11, committee reports. Academic committee, Mr. Joshi.
Yes, so we met on April 18th at 5:30 virtually, and in attendance were myself, Mrs. Calistri, Mr. Pepe, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Beers, and Mrs. Matia. First item was policy review, and this would be policy 5410, promotion and retention, and policy 5514, student use of vehicles on school grounds. The committee discussed two policies and agreed to the recommended changes. The first policy on promotion and retention was not closely assigned to the Strauss-Esme version, which made it difficult to be appropriately responsive to the needs of individual students, particularly multilingual learners. The restrictive timelines negatively impacted practice, causing situations where principals were forced to make retention decisions too early and or forced to promote students who may benefit from additional intervention or retention, especially for our youngest multilanguage learners. It's hard for me to say. The language was also amended in policy 5514, which is the student use of vehicles on school grounds, specific to non-motorized skateboards, scooters, roller skates, etc., as previously discussed and recommended by the Board of Ed at a Board of Ed meeting. Any questions on that?
First, thank you for reviewing the transportation policy. I was wondering if, well, I know that there were events in the district where there were skateboarding events and BMX events in the district, and I was wondering if there was any other opportunities where this policy might, help students, organize events or clubs, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, if it's an event, like a school assembly or something, I think they can, that hasn't changed. But as far as clubs go, I think they would have to go the same route as any other club that the students would have. But then it would revert back to this policy, I'm assuming. Mrs. Jones, am I correct? For the uses?
Yes, you're correct. So there are no immediate plans to change anything. However, what this does is it opens the door for those discussions and that possibility. So, yes. Yes.
Maybe I'm not reading it right. Does the new policy say that they can use all of these modes of transportation to get to school, but then they can't use them on school grounds unless they have principal's permission?
During school hours.
That is correct. So originally, the policy read that students weren't even able to use them at all to transport back and forth. So when we recently, whenever that was, maybe last year, beginning of this year, we revised it so that students would be able to take them back and forth, but there wasn't an option for a principal to make a decision about use during the school day, or as Jen just pointed out, if there were an assembly or some kind of program. So now that's changed. It will not change practice immediately, but it opens the door for that possibility.
And take a look, it's for first reading this time, so we'll be back next month. Okay. Any questions?
Oh, can I just quickly say, AJ, too, that because we are trying to align things with the Strauss-Esme policies, that was an option in the Strauss-Esme policy.
Okay.
It's one other thing on the policy, not on the policy itself. I don't know if this is permanent practice, but I noticed that the colors have changed a little bit looking at the document, where the new language is in blue and the eliminated language is in red with strike through. I don't know if that took much more time to do, but thank you for everyone who makes these in general. At least for me, that was a lot easier to read and kind of follow along and then go back and see what was replaced. So I don't know if that's permanent, but I definitely vote for it.
That was done specially for you.
Thank you. Well, and look, I got the idea from not the idea, but the New Jersey School Boards Association does it. And at least for me, it was a little bit easier to follow, easier on the eyes. So thank you to everyone who does this in general and made that happen.
Okay. Item 2 was K4 shifts in reading practice. Mrs. Madia, the Director of Elementary Education, provided an update on the district's progress regarding foundational literacy instruction, which included the following review: Science of Reading, curriculum implementation, which is explicit systematic phonics instruction, instructional resources, professional development timeline, shifts in NJSL standards, and next steps. And we adjourned at 7 o'clock. Our next meeting will be May 23rd at 5:30.
Any other questions? Mr. Joshi. Thank you, AJ. Community Relations, Ms. Calistri.
We met on April 11th at 3:15. In attendance was myself, Mrs. Freelander, Mrs. Asuna, Mr. Beers, Mr. Walker, and Mr. Moran. The first thing we did was we reviewed the new website. All board members signed into ThrillShare to review the website, which will be live on July 1st. We reviewed all the popular buttons that parents use and how the homepage should appear to make it more user-friendly. All the committee members are asked to review the BOE section to provide feedback, and the committee needs to examine the order of the links and suggest edits to make sure it's more user-friendly for when people use it. Any questions?
That's on the BOE website.
Correct,
section
our
only,
tab.
Yeah, so we're oversight over our tab.
Just our tab. That's it. Yep.
And then what we'll do, once this goes live over the summer before the new school year starts, this is something we can incorporate into one of our retreats just to do the final review.
So one thought there on the website is, have we ever thought about asking like our student reps or some students to give us some, bright ideas? Because we have them, I just throw that out there because as a parent, we look at it differently than a student. Do you use the website yourself a lot? Just be able to ask. Probably not.
Me personally, honestly, I'm not sure about the other students. I think I'm an outlier, possibly. I do see some students, but not a lot. Maybe during class when they should be focusing.
It's the only website they can get.
When they scroll through the Prowler, I get really excited. But yeah, sometimes, but I don't think many.
Okay. Great, thank you. Sorry to call you out on that. I appreciate you guys being here.
Next, we discussed we will be having a strategic planning presentation in May. Then I wrote, we're going to be planning our board retreat, which we have already done. And we're going to have 2 presentations during our May meetings. The first meeting is going to be about strategic planning results, and the second meeting will be to present our district goals. Next, we discuss school start times. We have money set aside that's going to do a transportation study to review all of the options. Any questions? Okay. Next, we discussed consistent notifications and reminders ahead of delayed openings. The district is now going to send out notifications of delayed openings in order to have consistency between all the schools. And lastly, we reviewed policy number 9561, which was climate and educational program surveys. And it was recommended that we abolish this policy. Any questions?
When you asked about the delayed openings, you talking about is that for like weather incidents? Or
No,
is that
like the ones that are already
special
planned.
days? Okay.
We found that some elementary schools were sending out notifications and others were not. So we just wanted it to be consistent across the district.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Yep.
expand on the committee's reasoning behind getting rid of policy 9561?
I'm going to refer to Bob on that one.
Okay.
Sorry, Bob. Wasn't it one that wasn't it Strauss Esme?
No, it's not a Strauss Esme, but policy 9561 is one, if you look at it, it's outdated. It refers to committees that don't exist. Yeah, the policy committee. And also we discussed how, right, if the Board of Education wants to do a climate survey, we just put it as one of our goals in the beginning of the year, and we conduct a climate survey. And then we can go through the parameters. So after discussion, it was really that the policy isn't really necessary and it was outdated. So it was something that could be addressed through goals, et cetera, versus, in a nutshell, I think it was too far gone to be saved, so to speak, as a policy, where we would have to. It wouldn't need a full overhaul. Yeah. It was more than a couple of edits.
I also have a question regarding that policy. Does Strauss may have a policy regarding the survey that we can maybe change into?
No.
Okay. All right.
So we could have the climate survey just based on, retreats, and if we say, okay, in 2 years we need another one, we can just go ahead and do it.
Absolutely.
We covered a lot of it. We did that. The strategic plan is kind of like a climate survey in a way. So it's sometimes it's doing it at appropriate times, maybe midway through something. Think way we did one, but the strategic planning sometimes maybe. So you're covering them in different areas too. So it's more of a thing to bring up during conversation. Like I said, not always a mandated policy. So some of it.
And then finally, it is one of the things I know in superintendent's training, I think board training, you hear a lot that you don't want to have a policy that constrains future boards, right, who may have a different view on climate surveys, et cetera. So it's best to do this through goal setting and through a retreat and decide if we're going to do it that way on a year-to-year basis, and then we go ahead and do it.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we adjourned at 4:25, and our next meeting is going to be June 4th at 5 p.m. virtually.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Finance, Facilities, and Transportation, Mr. Singer.
Our next meeting is May 7th, and please note the change in time. We're going to be meeting at 7 o'clock after having our BOE recognition dinner. So that was the best time for the administration, unfortunately, in order to have a meeting before the next meeting.
Thank you, Steve. Personnel Committee, Ms. Freelander, I think subbing him would be Dr. Fonder.
Yes, that is correct. The Personnel Committee met on April 16th at 5:30. We met in person at the Wade Building. Present at the meeting were Ms. Friedlander, Ms. Lee, Mr. Walker. I was there, in addition to Mr. Beers. The first item that we talked about was the draft of the personnel addendum. We always review that first at the Personnel Committee. This meeting was 2 weeks before the board meeting, so there wasn't that much on it at that point, but we reviewed the items that were there, and the committee supported the action items. Any questions? Then we did the non-tenured staff review, which was the bulk of the meeting. Mr. Beers and I reviewed the evaluation procedures used by the administration to observe staff members in accordance with the Achieve New Jersey law and the applicable district policies. We also reviewed identified non-tenured staff members, and the committee supported the action items. Any questions? All right. Next, we moved on to the policy review. The Personnel Committee is reviewing the 1000 series of policies. So we had identified at the last meeting 5 policies specifically that we were looking at: 1230, 1240, 1260, 1330, and 1331. The committee discussed and completed a review of these identified policies. There was no recommended changes, and so no action was taken. Any questions? Next, we talked about a potential new job description, which would be brought to the Personnel Committee for the May meeting. So we talked a little bit about that and about what would happen before that. This would be expected to be reviewed by the Personnel Committee at the May meeting and then would be brought to the board after that. So no action was taken at the meeting. Any questions? All right. The next thing is after the board approves the calendar for a school year, the employee holiday calendar, this is primarily for the secretarial staff and for the administrators, is created. And so the board recently approved the 2025-2026 school year calendar. And so this sub-calendar identifies which are the holiday days. Those are noted the number of days, and then they're designated through an employee holiday calendar. And so that was discussed and is on the agenda for this evening. That's not something that impacts teachers or students and families. It's really just for a smaller subset of the staff. Any questions about that?
Sorry, I just didn't realize that our buildings are all open, like between Christmas and New Year's.
Correct.
Like, all
Yes,
of them are
right.
open, all of them are staffed all the time.
So there's 15, the 12-month employees have 15 holiday days, 14 are designated, and one's a floating holiday to allow for people who have a celebration that's not captured in those. And so, for instance, Christmas Day is always identified as one of the holiday days, and so that would be a day that the whole district is closed, which is fairly typical in the work world. And then, but the other days would be open unless somebody's using their vacation days. And so certainly lots of principals, assistant principals, secretaries, supervisors would be using vacation time at that time, but they are work days otherwise. And the last item is I spoke to the Personnel Committee about the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, H-1B visa requirements. And the Board of Education does have someone employed who's looking for that visa. And so we talked about the responsibilities for the Board of Education as a petitioning employer for an employee. And so we reviewed what that would look like. There's no action on for tonight's meeting, but potentially there could be for a future meeting. The committee supported pursuing the H-1B visa. At the committee, we talked a little bit more specifically, but there's a confidentiality, so in the open meeting, we wouldn't identify an immigration status of any employee. Any questions on that? All right. We adjourned at 6:47 p.m., and our next meeting is scheduled for May 21st.
Thank you, Dr. Fonder. I'm adding one committee report, the negotiations committee. On February 28th, the board negotiations team, which consisted of Ms. Lee, Mr. Joshi, Ms. Calistri, myself. In attendance also was Dr. Fonder, Mr. Beers, and our board attorney. And we met with the BRTA. We had a very successful meeting in negotiations and came to a successful memorandum of agreement, which is on this evening, which we voted on. I want to thank the BRTA, our administration, and the BOE members of the committee for a successful, and I think one which will help us move forward with our bus drivers. And that will be, I'll be reading that into the agenda in the personnel part. And we adjourned. It was about an hour long. It was probably my shortest negotiations I've been through, so kind of fun. Any questions? Seeing none, liaison or delegate reports?
I have one.
Mr. Singer.
On April 15th, the Somerset County School Boards Association held their final meeting of the 23-24 school year. The meeting was held at the VOTEC, and Corinne Laurie, the Somerset County Teacher of the Year from North Plainfield Middle School, was honored. Additionally, several of our board members were recognized at this meeting, so I just want to talk about that really quickly. Lucy, Lee, Jen Lochran, and Mike Pepe were all recognized for receiving their new board member certifications. To achieve this certification, Lucy, Jen, and Mike attended Governance 1, earned 10 board member academy credits, attended a statewide or regional professional development program, as well as the annual workshop conference, and attended at least 2 county association meetings, all within their first 2 years of board service. So congratulations to them. I was recognized for achieving the level of certified board member, which is offered to board members who have served at least 3 years, earned 20 credits, attended 4 meetings, and delegates assembly. That was the final hurdle, among the other requirements. And finally, Mr. Walker was recognized for his 10 years of service to Bridgewater-Raritan. And in addition to recognizing Barry for his 10 years, Barry was elected as the county's delegate to the NJSBA Board of Directors. So thank you for your 10 years of service, and congratulations on this next additional thing to do. That's all.
As my wife would say, another non-paying job. Thanks. Any other delegate liaison reports?
I have two. One staying on the NJSBA theme. The delegate assembly is coming up on May 18th. It looks to be, we don't have the handbook yet. It's looking to be a very full agenda with, I think, 15 or so resolutions to vote on.
15 resolutions. They actually extended the meeting 2 hours.
Okay,
So,
it's not
yes.
surprising.
So yeah,
So
I will have them Friday. I'll get them to you as soon as
Okay,
I have
so
them.
if anyone wants to look at those, I'd be happy to, because I think we only have one meeting shortly before that. So if anyone wants
Yes.
to offer any feedback, you can
So,
let
yeah,
me
I will
know,
get-
or we could talk about it at the next meeting. And then from the borough of Raritan, there was thanks at the last committee meeting for JFK School and the principal, Mr. Russo, for helping to get the word out and working with the Recreation Committee for starting a new soccer program. There were 80 subs, great turnout, 80 or so kids at the soccer fields participating in a brand new program that looks to be off to a really strong start. So thanks to all the kids, all the families, and everyone at JFK who helped make that happen.
Thank you, Mike. Any other delegate liaison reports?
I have a question regarding the delegate assembly, if I can make one. I wonder, when we have those resolutions, can we take that to the board so we as a board vote on it, or how do we handle the situation?
Usually, I mean, we don't normally get 15. This is the first time I've seen 15. Usually it's like 3 or 4. Yes, usually they can bring it to the board and get a board decision on that, if you'd like, so we can bring them forward. I think I'll have access to them soon. I will get you as soon as I can get Mike.
Okay.
The board of directors gets them first. That's the reason I know that. So I'll try to get them to you soon, and we could talk about it at the retreat, because when's the delegate assembly?
Delegate assembly, I believe, is the 18th.
Yeah, so
Or
we have
maybe the
it.
19th. I think it's, no, the 18th, Saturday, the weekend after Mother's Day.
Okay. Yep, gotcha. So we'll do our best to get that way, Lucy, and circulate them. Some comments?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I haven't heard of boards that take formal votes on how they will vote. I think it's the part of the reason that there's one designated voting member, but I'm certainly happy to take any feedback. I know for the most part, they tend to be not particularly controversial, and the NJSBA also publishes a recommendation that, for the most part, board members have been on board with, but I'm happy to take anyone's feedback or.
Yeah, they usually public recommendation that actually suggested language change
Yes.
we needed to, so they're and I'm not sure how many they received, so
Mhm.
I can find that out too. So, any other delegate liaison reports? Thank you. I'm going to close that. Seeing none, this is the time for the item 12, open to the public, action items only. Individuals and/or groups are invited to present their concerns, comments, and requests regarding the following action items to the Board of Education at this time. In accordance with the board policy, members of the public are allotted one opportunity to address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes during this period of the meeting. Please be advised that a video recording of this meeting will be posted on the district's website. Going once, going twice. Okay.
Joan DePaula again, 41 Ash. I just want to,
Turn on the microphone if it's not on, please. If the light's not on. Is it on?
it was on.
Okay, it was on. Thank you. I didn't know. So I
Maybe
just
I'm
wanted to
too
double check.
short. Okay, I did want to just say I was remiss in thanking you all for volunteering your time. As you said, it's an unpaying job, and I certainly did not mean to sound accusatory in what I was saying. I just wondered, how it could happen. That was all. And thank you for answering my various questions.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'm going to close open public comment. Item 12, approval of the minutes from the April 9th regular session. Is there a motion? A second. Any discussion? Mr. Stars, can you call the roll, please? Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Ms. Calistri?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Ms. Hasuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Lochran? Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries. Personnel, 24 through 30, and I'm going to read in, you want to read?
Sure.
Mr. Stiles will read number 30 in, please.
Resolution number PER-24-30, resolved to approve the memorandum of agreement between Bridgewater-Raritan Regional Board of Education and the Bridgewater-Raritan Transportation Association, BRTA, from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, with corresponding salary guides, and authorize the administration and board president to take the necessary measures to implement its ratification.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Stars, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Ms. Calistri? Yes. Mr. Singer?
Abstain on personnel 2430, yes, and everything else.
Ms. Asuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Abstain on personnel 2430, and yes on the rest.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Lochran?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries. Curriculum 24-60 through curriculum 24-63. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Did you see all the field trips on there? Seeing none, Mr. Stars, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Ms. Calistri? Yes. Mr. Singer?
Abstain on curriculum 2463, yes, and the rest.
Ms. Asuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Lochran?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries. Business 24-121 through 24-133. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, go. Here we go. I just wanted to thank Edison Fernandez of Eco Landscaping for donating his services to Crim School. The PTO re-landscaped the whole school. It was a gift that they gave, but then he donated his labor of over $2,700. So I just want to publicly thank him for that. It was greatly appreciated.
Any other discussion?
I want to make a comment about the budget item, which is 24-124.
You might
I
want to speak into the mic.
I have shared a sheet to all of you, and I have emailed to you all. I think that some additional information, maybe I think I would like to bring to the full board's attention. Then in the email, there's also reasoning about why this sheet, how this sheet was made, and I want to ask that the full board will take a look at it. As a follow-up from our last budget discussion, I would like to know what is the use of the full-day kindergarten referendum money for 2023 to 2024 year, as well as for the years going forward. I have asked these questions to our FFT committee, and I have forwarded that email to the full board, including this sheet of calculation. So I'd like to hear our answer for those items. Thank you.
So I'm going to just respond really quickly because you emailed the FFT committee after the FFT committee had met. So the FFT committee did not have the opportunity to deliberate your emails. And the email that you're referring to today, you sent while this board was in closed session, so we could not deliberate that as either. Moreover, the 23-24 and 25-26 use of the full-day kindergarten operations budget would not be applicable to this business 24 dash whatever the budget is. So just wanted to note that.
24.
The 24 to 25 year budget does include the full-day kindergarten money in there, though. Can we comment on how that's going to be used?
Sure. $800,000 of it, $800,000 is in transportation, $500,000 is in curriculum, and 1.1 is in the facilities allocation.
Can I ask a question as well? Was this same information when an email was sent? Did you receive that information?
I wasn't certain if this for 24-25 or is it for 23-24.
I think it was pretty clear. But did you receive a response from Mr. Stars?
I have.
Okay, is it similar to what he said this evening?
I don't remember the numbers, but
Okay, thank you.
what year are we talking about now?
It's the one on the agenda, 24-25.
Okay. Is this related to for the kindergarten, or it's used in general fund as a general purpose?
It's in those accounts. It's going to be used for those different items within that count.
In those accounts, are they related to for the kindergarten?
The transportation certainly is. The curriculum allocation piece, I'm sure, is going to be impacted by the kindergarten. And the facilities is, I have to double check, it's for the roofing, so at those schools, sure.
And please remember that even according to what the attorney's advice was, it's not just full-day kindergarten, but it's all projects related to that. That includes shifting students to different schools throughout this district. It also includes the middle school addition. That's all part of the package. So, but I mean, this information has been shared, though, I know, prior to this meeting.
Yes, I have emailed. I think this meeting also serves the purpose of public information. So yes, all these questions I have asked to our committee or to our administrator. Yes.
Any other discussion?
I do have something on one item, and I know we always thank everyone who who provides a gift to the district, and we want to thank everyone on this list. But I do want to draw attention to the recess supplies. This was a really generous donation on behalf of the family of Mr. Amin, who was a longtime aide at Hamilton School and who passed away in the fall of 2023. And it's really a nice gesture from his family to think of the kids at Hamilton who he loved and looked after. And I just wanted to acknowledge their generosity and kindness. So thank you.
Again, I'd like that we have many donations this evening from the Hamilton PTO, the Crim School PTO, Edison Fernandez, the Panther Club, and Mr. Amin's family, which is wonderful. I did a little research on him. He was actually retired as a Bell Labs engineer. So kind of interesting, his second career, and he was helping with the kids. So the commitment we have from the staff and our community, we're very grateful to that. I know everyone does it, so I want to say thank you to all those groups. Any other discussion?
What constitutes recess supplies? Snacks and whatever you want?
Things like kickballs, all kinds of things. I think because of their donation, now Dr. Fonder could tell us with more authority. I think the kids at recess, they're going to have plenty of things to play with at Hamilton School for a while.
Sure, yeah, and it's not like an art room necessarily, where the art rooms are financially intensive because the materials they get used up. But at recess, they're well-loved materials, and so certainly, no one likes playing kickball with a flat kickball, and so making sure that all the equipment is in tip-top shape will be great. And there's always ways you can make the experience even better for the students, and so I'm sure the gift will be well used that way.
Thank you.
Again, what a great idea for his family, and again, thank you to their generosity.
Any other comments? Thank you. Mr. Stars, you can call the roll, please.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Ms. Calistri?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Abstain on business 24-126, yes on everything else.
Ms. Asuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
No to 124, yes to rest.
Ms. Lochran,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes. Motion carries. Special Services 24-33 through Special Services 24-34. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Stars, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Joshi,
Yes.
Ms. Kalistri,
Yes.
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Ms. Asuna,
Yes.
Mr. Pepe,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Lochran,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes. Motion carries. Other 24-38 through other 24-39. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
If there's any discussion, it would need to be done in closed session. So, is there any discussion? Mr. Strauss, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Joshi,
Yes to 2438, abstain on 2439.
Ms. Kalistri,
Yes.
Mr. Singer,
Yes on 2438, abstain on 262319 from other 2439, yes to everything else.
Ms. Asuna,
Yes.
Mr. Pepe,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Lochran,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes. Motion carries. Policy 24-25 through 24-26. Is there a motion?
So moved. Oh, second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I would just like to make one comment. I'm going to abstain from this vote on the policy because I've been advocating for skateboarding for a long time. And one of the things that I wanted to say, and the reason why I want to thank you for, again, hearing my thoughts, is that for a long time, laws and policies have been discriminating against particular kids from being in specific places because of a perception of both liability and the type of kid that they are. So I just really appreciate that you guys have considered my thoughts on this, and thank you again.
I had a comment on the promotion and retention policy. I think overall it's a great policy that puts the flexibility back with the administration at the building level and then at the district level to give students what they need in terms of which grade is best appropriate for them and whether they should move on. This is usually the case. And I thank you for the response, Mr. Beers and Mrs. Jones. For the one question I had was if we're looking for flexibility, just setting a number like a floor for the number of days that a student has to attend, which I think in this proposed policy is 150. I just look at that and I think, okay, 30 days of school for an elementary or middle school student, that's a lot of days. Might it be easier if we just took out that number altogether and left it to the building level principal and the administrators from there? So I just wanted to toss that out to everyone, or if the administration had any feedback on that. I could certainly see a number if it were a little bit higher, but I think 30 days, 1 out of every 6 days, and certainly the administration at the building level would be intervening at that point. But if that's not met with receptively by families or by students, is that 150? I just wonder about that 150 number. So.
I think it was discussed at the committee meeting, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
we
okay,
did
just
have
double check. It was
discussion.
discussed. I
We
was
did
just
have
gonna,
discussion at the
I was just
committee. For sure, that's why I'm tossing it out to the board and
remember.
everyone. So if there's not an answer, that's fine.
I mean, I think it's, if you miss
question.
one out of every 6 days in a school year, you're gonna, it's a problem. It's hard to, I think that would be hard to have a student promote at that point.
And certainly, I'm setting aside serious reasons that students
Sure,
are out.
of course.
Of course, there are reasons kids need to be out sometimes for an extended amount of time, or on and on.
Usually
So
it's
I'm
homeschooled, right? Or not homeschooled, but like.
It's not a hard and fast either, right? It's still, the principal still has the option to promote if, like, it's still a discussion.
Right.
It's still a discussion. There still could be extenuating circumstances. What it does is it kind of creates, like Mike said, a baseline, a default, because right now that doesn't exist. And so you can have kids who are absent for 30 or more than 30 days, not at the high school level. Once you're up at the high school level, there's an attendance policy where you can lose credits, by being absent in certain classes, but this creates some kind of baseline in K-8. The way that we came up with 150 at the committee and is that looking at other policies, this is Strauss-Esme policy, and they give you a choice of days. And considering other districts around us, what people basically did was they looked at chronic absenteeism, which is basically defined if you miss over 10% of the school year. So some districts actually chose that number, and it's slightly higher than 150. It's 163, and many just went with 150. The reality is if a student's really struggling and there is a reason to retain them, we can still retain them without them missing, this many days. But this creates kind of a minimal baseline. So it still has that flexibility. And the problem really was that our policy was so restrictive before and had so many different steps to it that we had some principals who felt rushed to make a decision about a student much earlier in the year than they should be, because at that point we still should have been developing plans for remediation. And then conversely, you could have people who at this point in the year feel like, okay, this really is in the best interest to review this student, and they feel like, oh no, I missed the first step of this, so now I can't do it. So the intention in aligning it is to really allow us to be more responsive to kids and make sure we're making the correct decisions for the correct reasons. And the 150 days just provides that baseline. So.
No, I thank you for that. And you did cover that at the meeting and explain how you got to that number. It was really on reflecting on some of my own experiences after that. I thought maybe a number that's a little bit higher might be more appropriate, or just taking the number out and leaving it to discretion, as a lot of districts do, is still having a flexible policy and leaving that and having that flexibility. You think of this time of the year when students have had trouble with absences, they get back on track, and so, well, we have a month left to go, and I have 10 absences to play with. You could start taking days and finding days pretty easily. Not that that's on everyone's minds, but there are families and students who don't completely understand the importance of being in school. Just not for, obviously for the student, and also for our teachers and the other kids in those classes. If you have a kid who's out a lot, and there's not a great reason, that takes up the teacher's time, that takes time away from the other students. And one of the things that I've seen that gets the message across, or can get the message across in some cases, is if you don't start getting into school and getting here on time and participating, even if your kid is doing okay, they might not be going to 4th grade with their friends. Suddenly you see, in some cases you might see a shift there, and I wonder if the 150 number is maybe working again, if we're working against ourselves a little bit with that.
I want to thank the administration. This is an area where policy was reviewed and operationally needed change. I think it's great you brought it to the board. You changed, working the policy that works effectively so the administration can do their job better and impact student achievement appropriately. So thank you.
I have one more question about 5514. And only because it seems like it's half of a policy. Is there a Strauss-Esme that talks about what they do when they get to school? The student use of vehicles.
Say that again?
It feels like it's half a policy, because it only talks about them getting from home to school, but not what happens once they get there. So does Strauss-Esme have the finishing of that's recommended?
That's something that we'll be able to easily manage. We do it now, so.
I feel like it's in there.
It does say
Yeah,
that
it
the
says
principal
up to the
has.
I thought it was in there,
Yeah.
So it's really in the student handbook as far as.
Yeah, it would be just like
As it should
bringing a bike, you're going to put it in a designated area. So if you bring a skateboard, put it in a locker if it fits, or put it in the main office or something, right?
If the principal says it's
If the
okay.
principal-
In
right.
locker, yes.
So if they transport themselves to school with a skateboard, they can bring it in and lock it somewhere based on where the principal says. The kind of flexible piece is what happens beyond that. Is it locked up all day, or is there the potential that the principal is going to allow them to use it for some purpose, like an assembly, for example, on school grounds? That's the change.
That's what my confusion was.
Yeah.
Each principal is going to be able to decide, okay, you got here, but you can't come in.
They might decide where a student could keep it, so maybe there'd be a central location if you're not going to use them at all during the day, or maybe they would allow students just to keep them in their own lockers. So, yes.
So consistency of the implementation across the district is what kind of asking. Okay.
I just have a comment on 9561. I understand your reasoning, Mr. Beers, and I appreciate that. I'm just a little concerned about getting rid of this because I don't want to go 3, 4, 5 years without another climate survey. I think that they do serve a good purpose, and I'm concerned that in 4, 5, 6 years, we're going to forget that we can just make that recommendation at a board meeting, during board goals. So while I understand your point about you don't want to constrain boards in that way, I would think that this would also give future boards the ability to use it. So that's why I'm concerned about the abolishment of 9561.
Any other discussion?
I want to second on that. I feel like having a policy give us guideline. There's still flexibility of how that's done. I think having a policy give us a reminder of this is something that's important. We care about how our school's climate is. We care about how students feel, how parents feel, how everyone feel. So I'm also having concern about getting rid of this policy. 9561.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Go ahead.
Do we have another, and I apologize, I don't know, do we have another policy regarding board goals that could be tied into?
There's not a policy on board goals, I'm fairly certain. We do that every year as part of operational calendar, and we do, so it's best practice. Some boards don't set goals. We set goals as part of the process of the district. At the same time, we're working on district goals, superintendent goals, we set board goals. Any other discussion? Mr. Strauss, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Joshi? Yes. Ms. Calistri?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes on policy 2425, no on policy 2426.
Ms. Asuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Abstain on 2425, yes on 2426.
Ms. Lee?
No to 2426, yes to 2425.
Ms. Lochran?
Abstain on 2425 and no to 2426.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
What? What's that?
Motion passes?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Item 15, open to the public. Individuals and or groups are invited to present their concerns, comments, and requests to the Board of Education at this time for any matter. In accordance with the board policy, members of the public are allotted one opportunity to address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes during this period of the meeting. Please be advised that a video recording of this meeting will be posted on district's website. Seeing none, I'm going to close open public comment. Item 16, old business. Is there any old business? Okay. Item 17, new business.
Two things. First one is I attended the NJSBA first, hopefully annual Women's Leadership Conference on Friday, April 19th. It's a new program that they're trying out. They've been working on it for like 10 years to make it come to fruition, and it did. It was a great event. There were probably 150 of us, which was a mix of principals, board members, administrators. The keynote was by Denise Collision, who's the Senior Vice President of SHI International Corporation. My biggest takeaway from her keynote was she talked about the dream gap which is children up through age 5 have very lofty goals and big aspirations, and they want to be astronauts and firemen, and they've big ideas. And between the age of 5 and 8, girls stop thinking that way. And by age 8, they have fallen more into gender-specific ideas on what they can do, and they limit their dreams. And that's the critical time between 5 and 8, where we need to do something about how girls stop feeling that way. The other one that I attended was a mentoring program, about having mentoring programs for girls in town, either through school or through the just community, and having it at different age groups. One of them is like Girls on the Run. It's a great one for age, I think it's 5th grade, 3rd through 5th grade. But also having something in high school where maybe older students, like seniors, juniors, could mentor freshmen and sophomores coming in, specifically girls. Obviously, it's great for everyone, but this was obviously all about the girls. And making sure that they're keeping their dreams high, and, they're not falling into gender roles and things like that. So that was that. Second thing is I just heard on my way here about the Affordable Connecting Program, which is ending next week, which is giving 338,000 families in New Jersey a $30 credit every month for high-speed internet, which started during COVID, and it's ending for the first time. So like 338,000 families potentially won't have internet as of May 1st, or starting next week. I don't know how many families that affects in Bridgewater and Raritan, but I know we handed out hotspots during COVID. I don't know if that is still out there, or if they were collected or what, but I'm just worried that we're going to have some students who may not have connectivity at home to turn in their homework.
Yes, we did hand them out. Yes, we did collect them, and we still, if a student's in need, and often it's the principal or a teacher who communicates to the principal, and then we do still supply them as necessary.
So there's a pathway.
There is a pathway,
okay.
because we do have that sometimes with students. Yep.
Just think, just making sure the teachers know, so kids suddenly don't turn in their homework. That might be.
Yes.
And please, the student or the parent ask. We need to know. We don't know unless you tell us. We try to do our best. So if there's no need, please ask.
I just have a quick thing. Next week is Yom HaShoah. It's a Memorial Day in Israel observed by Jews around the world, memorializing the horrors of the Holocaust. I'm going to keep this rather short, but this year marks the 30th anniversary of the New Jersey legislature voting unanimously on an act requiring education on the Holocaust and genocide in elementary and secondary education. The act found that there is an inescapable link between violence and vandalism and ethnic and racial intolerance. Education about the Holocaust is as relevant today as it was 30 years ago, if not more so, as we have lost many survivors of the Holocaust over the years. The echoes of the Holocaust and the hatred that led to those events can be heard around the world today. There's a reason that I'm bringing this up, and it does tie into education. So it's not just spur of the moment. Maud Dahm, a survivor of the Holocaust, a local resident, and a crusader for Holocaust education, will take part in the panel this Thursday, May 2nd, discussing a trip taken by teachers throughout New Jersey to sites in Poland, the Netherlands, and Germany, as well as providing detail on how these teachers will share their experiences from this trip with their students. The NJEA sponsored, I want to say 25 to 30 teachers to go on this trip with the understanding that they would come back and incorporate their learnings into their studies. This is a program that is offered online by the Raritan Valley Community College Institute for Holocaust and Genocide Studies, and it's free. If anyone is interested in attending, please, you can sign up at the website at RVCC. If you want the link, I'm happy to send it to you. It is at 7 o'clock on Thursday, and it should be illuminating. That's it.
Thank you for letting us know about that, Mr. Singer. So I had the opportunity to hear a presentation by Mr. Policia, I hope I'm saying that correct, the principal of Somerset County VOTEC, as well as take a tour of the Workforce Development Wing of RVCC. I learned that both offer certification opportunities that go beyond the idea that we have of vocational programming. And VOTEC is expanding and will be offering certification in finance and healthcare and medicine. And I also learned that while they take students from all over Somerset County, 50% of their students that are enrolled there are from the district. So this will create opportunities for students in our own district. That was all. Thanks.
I wanted to go into a new business. We have the retreat next week, 7 o'clock here. Try to accommodate everybody with schedules, so the 7 p.m. We have Gwen Thornton coming to facilitate. So the agenda is, let me go through that for a moment. Right now we have the agenda as superintendent evaluation expectations, strategic planning, action plan review, and meeting norms discussion, the establishment of the meeting norms to be developed by the group. All right. Also, timing for the board to meet for the CSA evaluation. I sent a calendar out, try to keep everybody, it's a busy time of year, so I want to keep everybody up to date. Some I had some responses or not, but I was thinking we have a meeting on June 11th. I looked at doing that Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, but I think we could probably do it with an hour and a half before the June 11th meeting, accomplish that. Is that something that we don't have another meeting night or something else? What are your thoughts on that? Check your calendars. Please feel free to. 6 or 5:30, we'll bring dinner. At 5:30, we can, how long did it take last year, Steve?
I would say an hour and a half, 2 hours.
5:30? Yeah, is that a better, then we don't have to have a second night again, and, that meeting, we're, as Mr. Beers and I were discussing, things are kind of winding down right now. It's not as, this is the longer meeting, so this is a kind of a, in those ways, we're not having as much presentation-wise. We'll be done by that point, right? So I thought, yeah, we can do it after, we finish it after, with 2 hours, so that's the plan. I've circulated some people wanted ahead of time, wanted the PDF format of the CSA evaluation. So Mr. Beers is going to be finished, I think, the 20th or 20th, submitting it. He's close to getting done, but he had asked for the time to get those in place, so we're going to be in place. We should be able to accomplish this, I feel. Everyone's good with that? 5:30 on the 11th? Everyone good?
Yeah, I will be potentially traveling, but
Okay.
it's due to a medical situation, so I don't know for sure. So I just wanted to let you know. It could hit or miss on that.
You'll be filling the evaluation, so your voice will be heard. Your input. So all 9 of us will be filling out the evaluation. So apologize. The timing.
Even if
we
you
can't
changed
get
it, I couldn't guarantee that I'd be able to make it because that time period is crucial.
we need to, by statute, we need to finish the CSA evaluation by June 30th or July 1st. So that's the timing. I'm trying to get it in and get everything done.
No, good job.
All right. Any other new business?
Real quick, I was at the day after our last meeting. I attended I mentioned that there was a Somerset County Governing Officials Association. There was a meeting at VOTEC, actually. The superintendent, Mr. Robert Prizzuto, presented some information about, or a lot of information about everything that VOTEC does and some of the opportunities for students and their expansion coming up and some great new building. I learned that most of the great, not a majority, but the biggest chunk of students come from Bridgewater and Raritan. So it's great to see the great work that they are doing over there, and also hear about some of the challenges that they, like every district, is facing. Just a little bit, I won't bring them up at every meeting, but the Somerset County Governing Officials Association is part of the League of Municipalities. It's just an informal networking meeting. There are officials from both parties. There were and nonpartisan folks. There were people from Bridgewater and from Raritan, and a number of other municipalities around the town. Around the county. So if anyone's interested, they're always looking for people to attend. If you get an email, especially if there's a topic more relevant to the schools.
Thank you, Mike. I know Mike has been going back and forth with many things in Raritan with me, so I appreciate that in liaison. So, and what you're doing. Any other new business? Yes, Ms. Lee.
I think that we voted on our budget this time. The emails that sent, the issues that I mentioned about the appropriation for the kindergarten money, I continue to want to bring that to our FFT committee for last year's appropriation as well as for years going forward. So I want to bring this up so that FFT can consider at their next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on the new business? I'll entertain a motion. Any second?
Second.
All those in favor? Have a nice evening. Thank Thank you all.